The hot desert sun beat down as she methodically loaded ammunition into the Apache, just another invisible technician on the crowded airfield. For 3 years, no one had bothered to learn her name or story. They'd walk past, barking orders, never making eye contact. The pilot approached to check her work, casual and dismissive as always. Then her shirt rode up just slightly as she reached overhead. His eyes caught the classified geometric tattoo on her lower back. His coffee mug shattered on the tarmac. He knew exactly what that marking meant, and who she really was. From which city in the world are you watching this video today? If this story of hidden identity and unrecognized heroes resonates with you, please consider subscribing. Every week we bring you stories of extraordinary people in ordinary disguises. The pre-dawn glow bathes Phoebe Chimera in hazy orange light as Nairi Kessler methodically feeds a belt of 30mm shells into an AH-64 Apache's chain gun. Unlike the other technicians working in pairs, laughing and sharing stories, Nairi works alone. Her military-issue cap is pulled low, her movements precise and economical. Nothing wasted, nothing flashy. The familiar weight of the ammunition in her hands is almost comforting after 3 years of the same routine. Day 847 to be exact, though no one on base would know she keeps such careful count. Her fingers move with practiced precision, loading each round with perfect spacing, her mind simultaneously focused on the task and cataloging the activities around her. Across the tarmac, 2 junior mechanics glance her way, their voices carrying in the still morning air. "Who's the solo act?" one asks, a new transfer based on his fresh uniform and unweathered skin. "Kessler. Been here forever. Keeps to herself," the other responds with a dismissive shrug. "Weird one, huh? Just quiet. Does the work of 3 people, though." Nairi gives no indication she's heard them, though she catalogs the conversation along with dozens of others she absorbs daily. Intelligence gathering takes many forms, and being forgettable has its advantages. Captain Axel Blackwood approaches with a clipboard, his boots striking the tarmac with unnecessary force. His voice carries even more unnecessary volume, as if speaking to someone hard of hearing rather than just a subordinate. "Kessler, need you to handle Hangar 3 when you're done here. The new kid screwed up the missile alignment on the second bird." Nairi nods once without looking up. "Yes, sir." "And requisitions needs the inventory from yesterday. Should have been done already." Another nod. No protest about the additional workload piled atop tasks that would normally require a team of 2 or 3. Blackwood walks away, already shouting orders at someone else. 2 privates passing by snicker at the interaction. "Morning, General Nobody," one says with a mock salute. The shell casing Nairi is holding slips slightly, clattering to the ground. She silently retrieves it, face betraying nothing, though the nickname stings more than she would admit. Not because of wounded pride, but because of how dramatically ironic it truly is. From across the airfield, Major Thorne Merrick watches the interaction, his expression unreadable beneath aviator sunglasses. He's the squadron leader, known for his precision flying and demanding standards. Something about Nairi's methodical work catches his attention, the way she checks connections that most technicians gloss over, her attention to detail that exceeds standard protocol. For a moment, he seems about to approach, but his co-pilot calls him to the morning briefing, and the moment passes. Merrick turns away, casting one final glance at the solitary figure working beneath the massive Apache. Nairi continues her work, fingers tracing connections others routinely overlook, checking and double-checking the firing systems that will soon be unleashed in combat. Her internal monologue plays softly in her mind. Day 847, still no sign they know who I am or why I'm really here. The mission continues. As the sun rises fully over the horizon, Nairi finishes loading the ammunition and moves to the rocket pods. Her movements remain methodical, but her configuration differs slightly from standard, a specialized arrangement of high-explosive rounds alternating with armor-penetrating ones. It's a setup specifically adapted to the terrain and structures in today's target zone, though no one has briefed her on the mission parameters. She doesn't need a briefing. She's been monitoring the communications, the intelligence reports, the flight patterns for months. While officially she's just loading ammunition, unofficially she's been fighting a different kind of war. By 0900, the base is fully alive with activity. Pilots check flight plans, mechanics run final diagnostics, and intelligence officers scurry between command posts with updated threat assessments. Nirei blends into the background, moving from helicopter to helicopter, performing her assigned tasks while observing everything. In the briefing room at 11:30 hours, the squadron gathers for final mission prep. Maps of the region are displayed on screens while intelligence reports scroll across monitors. Major Merrick stands at the front, selecting pilots and gunners for the day's operations. "We've got increased insurgent activity near the Haditha Dam," he announces, his voice commanding instant attention. "Intelligence suggests possible IED placement targeting infrastructure. This is a high-priority surveillance run with weapons hot if confirmed hostile activity." The pilots nod, absorbing details about wind conditions, visibility, and potential anti-aircraft threats. Lieutenant Sparks, eager and overly confident at 28, points to the ammunition manifest displayed on a side screen. "Sir, we're loaded with standard configuration, though maintenance has some weird setup on Apache 2, he says, a hint of derision in his tone. Merrick raises an eyebrow. "What kind of setup?" "Kessler reconfigured the rocket pods, split between HE and penetrators. Waste space, if you ask me." Merrick studies the diagram, comparing the standard loadout with the modified version. After a moment's consideration, he surprises everyone. "Keep it as is. The quiet ones sometimes know things we don't." A ripple of confusion passes through the room. Since when does Major by-the-book Merrick allow deviations from standard procedure? Lieutenant Sparks looks particularly displeased but knows better than to argue. As the briefing concludes, the pilots and crew disperse to make final preparations. While others break for lunch in the mess hall, Nirei works through the hour, rechecking missile systems and making subtle adjustments to targeting parameters. Her focus is absolute, unbroken by hunger or fatigue. Lieutenant Commander Royce Callahan, a visiting intelligence officer with perfect posture and cold eyes, observes her from a distance. Unlike the others who ignore Nirei, Callahan watches her with calculated interest, making subtle notes on his tablet. There's something predatory in his gaze, something that suggests recognition beyond her cover identity. Nirei is aware of his attention but gives no sign. She's been watching Callahan since his arrival 3 days ago, noting his unusual access to communication systems, his late-night transmissions, and his particular interest in today's mission parameters. As final preparations begin, Major Merrick approaches Nirei directly, something he's never done before. His shadow falls across her work area, causing her to look up with carefully calibrated surprise, as if unused to being directly addressed by senior officers. "The left rocket pod, you're running an unusual configuration," he states, more observation than accusation. "Better for the limestone structures in the target area, sir," Nirei responds softly, her voice surprisingly authoritative despite its quietness. It's the voice of someone used to being listened to, momentarily breaking through her carefully maintained facade. Merrick nods, clearly impressed by the tactical assessment. As Nirei reaches high to secure an ammunition bay, her shirt rises slightly. Just below her lower back, the edge of an intricate geometric tattoo becomes visible, not random art, but a precise pattern with embedded numbers and symbols. Merrick freezes mid-sentence, his mind flashing to classified briefings, redacted files with those exact symbols, a mission dossier from Yemen 4 years ago, the symbol of an elite unit officially listed as disbanded after a catastrophic operation, a unit whose members were either dead or reassigned to deep cover positions, a unit whose commander was posthumously awarded the highest military honors for sacrifice in the field. Nirei notices his expression change, the sudden recognition in his eyes. Their gazes lock. She gives an almost imperceptible shake of her head. Not here. Not now. For a moment, neither moves. Then Merrick backs away, visibly unsettled, and returns to his crew. But now, he can't stop glancing back at the quiet woman loading his helicopter, suddenly seeing someone completely different from before. As the pilots suit up and perform their final checks, Nirei moves efficiently through her remaining tasks. She's aware of Merrick's occasional glances, the new weight of recognition in them. It complicates things, but may also provide an opportunity she's been waiting for. Lieutenant Commander Callahan approaches her workstation, his steps measured and deliberate. "Technician Kessler," he says, his voice smooth and controlled. "I don't believe we've been formally introduced. I'm overseeing intelligence coordination for today's operation." "Sir," Nirei responds with appropriate deference, keeping her eyes lowered. "I noticed your specialized loadout configuration. Rather unusual for someone at your level to make such tactical decisions. There's accusation beneath the observation, a probing quality that sets off warning signals. Nirei has survived 3 years undercover by being forgettable, by never demonstrating knowledge beyond her station. The ammunition configuration may have been a minor miscalculation on her part. Just following the terrain requirements in the mission brief, sir, she answers, her voice carefully modulated to sound slightly uncertain. Interesting, Callahan replies, clearly not believing her. I wasn't aware maintenance technicians receive detailed terrain briefings. Before Nirei can formulate a response that won't further raise suspicions, Major Merrick intercedes, approaching with purposeful strides. Commander Callahan, we need to discuss the communication protocols before takeoff, he says, effectively drawing Callahan away from Nirei's workstation. As they walk away, Nirei catches Merrick's subtle backward glance, a clear indication that he's created the diversion intentionally. The recognition in his eyes earlier wasn't just shock, it held respect, even deference. He knows who she is, or at least has some idea. The question now is what he intends to do with that knowledge. The airfield erupts into organized chaos as final preparations complete. Pilots climb into cockpits, ground crew clear the tarmac, and the massive Apache engines roar to life, kicking up swirls of desert dust. Nirei steps back to the appropriate distance, watching as the deadly machines she's helped prepare lift into the air. As the helicopters grow smaller against the harsh blue sky, Nirei makes her way toward the mission control bunker. There, amid the technology and communications equipment, she'll continue the real work she's been doing for 3 years, monitoring for the evidence she needs, watching for the traitor who has eluded her for so long. The pieces are finally falling into place, and today's mission may provide the final confirmation she seeks. But with Major Merrick now aware of her, the carefully constructed cover identity she's maintained is beginning to crumble. Time is running out, both for her mission and for the pilots currently flying into what she suspects may be far more dangerous than a simple surveillance run. The mission control bunker hums with electronic activity as screens flicker with live feeds from Apache gun cameras. 4 attack helicopters approach the target zone near the Haditha Dome, their movements synchronized and deliberate. Officers monitor communications while intelligence analysts track thermal signatures and movement patterns on the ground. Nirei stands quietly in the back of the room, her presence barely acknowledged by the others. She monitors technical readouts on a secondary screen, focusing on data streams that nobody else seems concerned with, transmission frequencies and signal patterns that reveal more than just helicopter performance. Major Merrick's voice comes through the main speakers, calm and focused. Apache 1 approaching waypoint Charlie, no visual on targets yet, switching to thermal. Lieutenant Commander Callahan leans forward, studying the main screen with unusual intensity. Intelligence suggests hostiles may be using the Eastern Tunnel network. Concentrate your search there. Nirei's eyes narrow slightly. The intelligence briefings she'd accessed mentioned nothing about Eastern tunnels, and the thermal imaging shows more promising activity to the west. She makes a subtle adjustment to her monitoring equipment, focusing on the source of Callahan's communications. Copy that, Merrick responds, banking his Apache toward the eastern approach. Apache 2, maintain overwatch position. 3 and 4, continue perimeter sweep. The mission progresses smoothly for several minutes. The bunker staff maintain professional focus, tracking movements and relaying information. Then, almost imperceptibly at first, something changes. A slight distortion appears on the main screen, flickering across the video feed from Apache 1. The communications officer adjusts controls, assuming it's simple interference. Apache 1, you're breaking up slightly. Can you confirm position? Static fills the channel. Then Merrick's voice, suddenly tense. Something's wrong with the targeting system, getting inconsistent readings. More static cuts across all communications channels simultaneously. We're losing them, the communications officer announces, fingers flying across his console. The main screen shows Apache 1 firing at coordinates that don't match their assigned targets. Apache 2 spins erratically, its stabilization systems clearly compromised. Their targeting systems are compromised, someone shouts. Chaos erupts in the control room. Base personnel rush to restore communications while officers demand explanations. In the confusion, Nirei quietly activates a small device concealed in her palm, capturing and analyzing the signal disruptions. Lieutenant Commander Callahan's voice rises above the commotion, his earlier professional calm replaced by righteous anger. He points directly at Naire. Security, detain that woman, now! Two military policemen move toward Naire, hands moving to their sidearms. She makes no attempt to resist or run, instead maintaining the surprised, frightened expression appropriate for a low-level technician suddenly accused. Sir? She questions, injecting confusion into her voice. Callahan's voice rises above the commotion. She was the last one to access the weapon systems. This is sabotage. The bunker door bursts open before the MPs reach her. Major Merrick stumbles in, flight suit torn and bloodied from what was clearly an emergency landing. A cut above his eye streams blood down one side of his face, and he favors his right leg, but his eyes are clear and focused. They lock on the scene, Naire being approached by armed security. What the hell is happening? He demands, his voice commanding immediate attention despite his injured state. We have our saboteur, Callahan announces with cold satisfaction. Your weird little mechanic compromised the targeting systems. We lost contact right after launch. Too convenient to be coincidence. Merrick crosses the room in 3 strides, placing himself between Naire and the approaching MPs. Release her, now. Major, this is a security matter, Callahan begins, condescension clear in his tone. I understand you're disoriented from the emergency landing, but please stand aside. I said release her. Merrick's voice drops to a dangerous register that silences the room. Or I call CENTCOM directly and have them explain to you exactly who you're putting handcuffs on. Confused, the MPs look to their commanding officer. Callahan scoffs. She's a level 2 maintenance technician, barely cleared to load ammunition, let alone access secure systems. What happened to the other Apaches? Naire asks quietly, speaking for the first time since the chaos began. A communications officer responds automatically before Callahan can stop him. Emergency landings at fallback positions. Some minor injuries reported, but all crews accounted for. Merrick steps forward, standing straighter despite his injuries. His voice carries absolute authority as he addresses the room. No, she's not a technician. She is Colonel Naire Phantom Kessler, former commander of the classified Shade program, Medal of Honor recipient, and the woman who single-handedly extracted my entire unit from Yemen after our position was compromised. The room falls silent. Even the electronic equipment seems to quiet. Naire's posture changes subtly, becoming straighter, more commanding, though she says nothing to confirm or deny Merrick's statement. That's absurd, Callahan finally sputters. Colonel Kessler died in Yemen. It's in the official record. Official records can be modified when necessary, Naire says, her voice now entirely different, carrying the unmistakable tone of senior command. Gone is the quiet deference of the maintenance technician. Major Merrick is correct about my identity. The room remains frozen, personnel trying to reconcile the unremarkable technician they've ignored for years with the revelation of who she actually is. Merrick continues, addressing the room but watching Callahan's reactions carefully. 4 years ago in Yemen, my special operations team was ambushed. Intelligence failure, they said. We were surrounded, no extraction possible. Then she appeared, fought through enemy lines, took 3 bullets, and got all 9 of us out. Official record says she died there. Naire steps forward, no longer playing the part of the invisible subordinate. I've been undercover for 3 years tracking a network selling targeting data to insurgent forces. Today's operation was the confirmation I needed. She turns to Callahan, whose face is drained of color. The jamming today came from a signal originating within this bunker. A signal using the exact same encryption as the compromise in Yemen. Callahan laughs nervously. This is ridiculous. You have no proof. Naire pulls a small device from her pocket. This has been recording all transmissions for the past 6 hours, including a burst transmission sent exactly 3 minutes before our Apaches lost targeting capabilities. Same signature as Yemen. Same encryption pattern. Callahan lunges for the door, shoving aside a junior officer in his path. His sudden movement confirms guilt more effectively than any evidence could. The 2 MPs react instantly, tackling him before he can escape. As he's restrained, cursing and struggling, Naire walks calmly to her workstation and kneels down. What are you doing? Asks the communications officer, still trying to process the dramatic shift in reality. Naire doesn't answer immediately. Instead, she removes a small panel beneath her desk that no one had noticed before, revealing a hidden compartment containing sophisticated surveillance equipment. She pulls out an external hard drive and holds it up. 3 years of meticulously gathered intelligence, Communications logs, financial transfers, meeting records. Lieutenant Commander Callahan isn't working alone. He's part of a network that extends into military intelligence and private defense contractors. As Callahan is led away by security, still protesting his innocence, the bunker slowly returns to functional order. Communication with the grounded Apache units is restored, and recovery teams are dispatched. Merrick approaches Naire, wincing slightly from his injuries. 3 years, he says quietly. You've been here 3 years letting everyone treat you like someone invisible, she finishes. Best cover there is. They move to a corner of the room, speaking in low tones while the bunker staff try not to openly stare at the maintenance technician suddenly revealed to be a high-ranking officer. How did you know? Naire asks. About my identity. Most people who knew me from before think I'm dead. Merrick touches the cut above his eye, blood still seeping through his makeshift bandage. The tattoo. I saw it during the extraction in Yemen. It was part of my debriefing after, identifying marking for shade operators. They made sure I understood I'd never seen it. Naire nods. Callahan was getting sloppy. He knew I was getting close. Today was a calculated risk on my part. You used us as bait, Merrick says. But there's no accusation in his tone, only professional assessment. I used myself as bait too, she responds. I needed him to make a move that would confirm his involvement. The ammunition configuration was deliberate, unusual enough to draw attention without raising alarm. Merrick studies her face, seeing beyond the deliberately plain appearance she's maintained for her cover. You knew I'd recognize the tattoo eventually. I suspected you might. Your file indicates exceptional observational skills and an eidetic memory for visual details. Before they can continue, the base commander enters the bunker, his expression a mixture of confusion and concern. Briefings will be required, explanations made, reports filed. The revelation of Naire's true identity and Callahan's betrayal will generate ripples throughout military intelligence. As senior officers gather to discuss next steps, Naire excuses herself briefly. In a quiet corner, she sends a secured transmission to her actual commanding officer, reporting mission success and requesting extraction. For the first time in 3 years, she signs the communication with her real name and rank. Colonel Naire Kessler, Shade Program, Operation Long Watch complete. When she returns to the briefing area, personnel who had ignored her for years now stand at attention, their expressions revealing a mixture of shock, embarrassment, and newfound respect. At ease, she says quietly. We have work to do. Hours later, after extensive debriefings and preliminary interrogation of Callahan, Naire finds herself in the base medical facility, waiting while doctors finish treating Merrick's injuries. When he emerges, leg bandaged but walking steadily, he offers her a proper salute. They never taught us in training how to apologize to a superior officer you've been unknowingly disrespecting for years, he says with a wry smile. No apology necessary, Major. You were supposed to disregard me. That was the point. They walk slowly toward the officers' quarters, the setting sun casting long shadows across the base. What happens now? Merrick asks. Callahan will be transported to a secure facility for further questioning. His network will be dismantled methodically. As for me, my cover identity is compromised. Time to become Colonel Kessler again. Will the rest of the base be informed? Tomorrow morning. The base commander has called an assembly. After that, I'll be reassigned. Merrick nods, understanding the nature of classified operations and the temporary nature of any assignment. It must have been difficult, he says after a moment. 3 years of being invisible, of being dismissed, of knowing you could end at any time by revealing who you really were. Naire considers his words carefully before responding. The mission required it. Personal comfort is irrelevant when compared to operational success. They reach the officers' quarters, a place Naire hasn't entered during her entire time on base. Get some rest, Major. Tomorrow will be interesting. She turns to leave, but Merrick calls after her. Colonel, what made you suspect Callahan specifically? There must have been other candidates during your investigation. Naire pauses, weighing how much to reveal. In Yemen, before the ambush, I saw him. He wasn't supposed to be there, but I glimpsed him meeting with local assets. I never forgot his face. With that, she walks away, leaving Merrick watching her retreating figure with newfound understanding. The quiet technician everyone overlooked had been the most dangerous person on base all along, hiding in plain sight while methodically pursuing justice. Morning light filters through the windows of the base commander's office, illuminating dust particles that dance in the air like miniature constellations. Brigadier General Ilara Westfield, a woman whose stern face has earned her the nickname the Granite General, stands before the assembled senior officers of FOB Chimera. Her posture is rigid, her expression unreadable as she surveys the room. Beside her stands Nire Kessler, though few would recognize her at first glance. Gone is the nondescript maintenance technician in oil-stained fatigues. In her place stands Colonel Kessler, wearing a proper uniform with full rank insignia, her hair neatly arranged according to regulation rather than hastily tucked under a worn cap. She stands straight but looks slightly uncomfortable with the attention, a residual habit from 3 years of cultivating invisibility. The room buzzes with whispered conversations and sideways glances. Most of these officers had passed Nire daily without a second thought. Some had given her orders, dismissive and curt. Others had never noticed her at all. General Westfield clears her throat, and the room falls instantly silent. For 3 years, she begins, her voice carrying the weight of command, Colonel Kessler has lived among us as a ghost, sacrificing rank, recognition, and basic dignity to complete a mission none of us knew existed. On a screen behind them appears Nire's service record, most of it heavily redacted, but still impressive enough to cause a ripple of murmurs through the assembled officers. Multiple commendations, specialized training certifications, and mission successes with crucial details blacked out for security. Following the Yemen incident, intelligence suggested a high-level breach in our communication protocols. Colonel Kessler volunteered to be officially declared killed in action to pursue this threat. She integrated into our base at the lowest profile position possible to monitor communications and movements without detection. Captain Blackwood shifts uncomfortably in his chair, recalling every dismissive order he's barked at her, every additional task piled onto her already full workload. His face flushes with embarrassment as he realizes how he had treated a decorated officer of superior rank. The general continues, her tone matter-of-fact but tinged with something approaching admiration. Her operation has uncovered a network of compromised intelligence channels that has endangered American lives for years. The information she gathered will be saving lives long after we've left this region. Major Merrick stands near the back of the room, his injuries from the emergency landing bandaged, but his posture military perfect. His expression reveals a complex mixture of respect and lingering disbelief at having worked alongside Colonel Kessler for years without recognizing her. Yesterday's incident with the Apache squadron was the culmination of her investigation, General Westfield explains. Thanks to Colonel Kessler's preparations, what could have been a catastrophic loss of personnel and equipment was contained to minor injuries and repairable damage. The general gestures to a junior officer, who distributes sealed folders to certain senior staff members. These contain need-to-know briefings on the security implications of what's been uncovered. Study them carefully. Operational security remains at level Alpha until further notice. She turns to Nire, her formal demeanor softening almost imperceptibly. Colonel Kessler, the floor is yours. Nire steps forward, and the room seems to hold its collective breath. For most present, this is the first time they've heard her speak in anything other than the quiet, deferential tone of a junior technician. Thank you, General, she begins, her voice clear and authoritative. I'll keep this brief. The Network Lieutenant Commander Callahan was part of specifically targeted forward operating bases with access to sensitive regional intelligence. FOB Chimera was chosen because of its strategic importance and the high-value missions conducted from this location. She activates a display showing communication patterns across the region, careful to include only information already cleared for this audience. Using my position in maintenance gave me unrestricted access to the airfield and proximity to communications equipment without raising suspicion. No one questions the presence of maintenance personnel, and few pay attention to what they might overhear. Several officers avert their eyes, recognizing their own culpability in treating support staff as essentially invisible. Lieutenant Commander Callahan is currently being transported to a secure facility for enhanced interrogation. Based on preliminary questioning, we've identified 3 additional contacts within Regional Command who will be detained within the next 24 hours. The network appears to extend into private military contractors as well, particularly those with access to targeting data and mission parameters. She concludes with precise military efficiency. I want to commend the Apache squadron for their professionalism during yesterday's incident. Despite compromised systems and communications, all pilots executed emergency protocols flawlessly, preventing any loss of life. As Neary steps back, General Westfield addresses the room once more. Colonel Kessler will be departing FOB Chimera tomorrow for reassignment. Her cover identity is obviously compromised, but her work here has been invaluable. I expect each of you to maintain absolute silence regarding the details of her operation and presence here. The briefing concludes with standard security reminders and dismissal protocols. As the officers file out, many approach Naire with awkward attempts at apologies or belated respect. She accepts each with professional grace, neither encouraging guilt nor dismissing it entirely. As the room clears, the two privates who had mockingly called her General Nobody approach with genuine, respectful salutes. Their faces burn with embarrassment, but they hold their posture perfectly. "Colonel," one begins, voice tight with tension, "we want to apologize for our conduct. We had no idea, but that's no excuse for disrespect to any personnel." Neary returns their salute with perfect form. "Apology accepted, privates. Consider it a lesson in why every person on base deserves respect, regardless of their apparent rank or position." They nod gratefully and depart, walking noticeably straighter than when they entered. General Westfield approaches once the room has emptied. 3 years is a long, deep cover assignment, Colonel. One of the longest I've seen that didn't involve civilian integration. The complexity of the network required patience, General, Naire responds. Callahan was careful, established. Rushing would have compromised the entire operation. Westfield nods, studying Neary with newfound appreciation. Your psychological evaluation noted exceptional tolerance for isolation and discomfort, but this went beyond the parameters anyone anticipated. Command has authorized 2 months of decompression leave before your next assignment. That won't be necessary, General. I prefer to remain active. It wasn't a suggestion, Colonel, Westfield replies with the hint of a smile. Even ghosts need rest occasionally. After the morning's formalities, Naire spends the day completing documentation and transferring intelligence materials to secure channels. The base operates around her with a strange new dynamic. Personnel who had ignored her for years now hyper-aware of her presence. Major Merrick finds her in the communications center late in the afternoon, methodically encrypting the last of her findings. "Permission to speak freely, Colonel?" he asks, maintaining proper protocol now that her identity is official. "Granted, Major, and you can drop the formality when we're not in official settings." "I've been thinking about Yemen," he says, closing the door behind him. "You never told me how you knew where to find us. Our position was classified, our mission dark." Neary continues typing for a moment before responding. "I was already in the region tracking weapons shipments. When your team missed 2 scheduled communications, I intercepted chatter about an American unit pinned down. The rest was operational improvisation." "You took 3 bullets pulling us out," Merrick says quietly. "They told me later you weren't expected to survive emergency surgery." "Which created the perfect opportunity to establish my death in official records," she responds pragmatically. "It served the mission." Merrick shakes his head slightly. "Everything serves the mission with you, doesn't it?" For the first time, Neary pauses her work, considering his question with genuine reflection. "The mission is what saves lives, Major. Personal comfort, recognition, even personal relationships, all secondary to operational success." "And after Chimera, what's next?" "That's classified," she responds automatically, then softens. "Genuinely classified. I don't know yet. The network Callahan was part of has branches I need to pursue." Merrick steps closer, lowering his voice despite the secure room. "I've submitted a formal request to join your next operation, whatever it may be. My experience with the compromised communication systems could be valuable." Nairi studies him carefully. "That's not how shade operations typically work, Major. We operate alone, minimal contact, maximum deniability." "With respect, Colonel, perhaps that model needs reconsideration. 3 years alone undercover takes a toll, even on someone with your training." Before she can respond, a junior communications officer knocks and enters with transfer paperwork requiring her signature. The conversation shifts to operational matters, the moment of personal connection set aside. As evening falls across FOB Chimera, A formal recognition ceremony is hastily arranged in the officers' mess. It's unusual protocol, but General Westfield has authorized it as appropriate under the circumstances. The room is filled with personnel from across the base, all ranks assembled to properly acknowledge Colonel Kessler before her departure. Major Merrick steps forward and presents Nire with her actual insignia, a replacement for the ones supposedly buried with her after Yemen. Then he offers a formal salute that spreads throughout the room, a wave of respect from the very people who had overlooked her for years. The ceremony is brief but meaningful, providing closure both for Nire and for those who had unknowingly disrespected a senior officer. As it concludes, personnel approach her individually, some offering thanks, others simply paying proper respects. Captain Blackwood's approach is particularly stiff, his discomfort evident in every movement. "Colonel," he begins formally, "I want to apologize for my conduct during your assignment here. Had you known the operation would have been compromised," Nire interrupts gently. "You treated me exactly as my cover required. No apology necessary, Captain." Her words ease some of his tension, though the embarrassment remains visible in his posture as he salutes and moves on. The following morning brings clear skies and mild temperatures, ideal conditions for aircraft operations. Nire, now in proper uniform with full colonel rank, stands on the airfield with her single duffel bag packed. Her new orders are classified, her destination known only to General Westfield and the highest levels of command. Major Merrick approaches as she awaits her transport. "So this is it," he says. "Back to the land of the living." "Back to the next mission," she corrects him with the ghost of a smile. "The work continues." "How did you do it?" he asks, the question that has clearly been bothering him. 3 years of being invisible, disrespected. I would have broken cover the first week." Nire considers her answer carefully, looking out across the airfield where she has worked anonymously for so long. The mission always matters more than the recognition. Sometimes the most important work happens in the shadows. "Where will you go now?" he asks, though he knows she can't fully answer. "That's classified, Major." But her small smile suggests she might actually miss this place, or at least some aspects of it. As Nire hands him her clearance documents, she discreetly slips him an envelope. "Some things still need attention," she says quietly. The sound of an approaching transport aircraft draws their attention skyward. As it descends for landing, the entire squadron lines the runway in formation, offering a final salute to the woman they never truly knew until yesterday. "Your replacement as squadron leader arrives next week," Nire mentions. "Major Desmond has an excellent record." "I won't be here," Merrick responds. "Transfer approved this morning. Special operations assignment, details pending security clearance." Nire raises an eyebrow but says nothing as the transport touches down. Inside the plane, she takes a seat by the window, watching FOB Chimera recede below as they climb into the clear blue sky. For 3 years, she had memorized every detail of this base, learned the patterns and rhythms of its personnel, all while remaining essentially invisible to them. The mission was complete, the network exposed, justice in process. Yet as she watches the base disappear beneath the clouds, her thoughts are already turning to the next operation, the next cover identity, the next mission where lives hang in the balance. After takeoff, Merrick opens the envelope Nire left him. Inside are coordinates for another potential security breach and a handwritten note. "Some ghosts never rest." He looks up at the departing plane, a new understanding in his eyes about the quiet heroes walking among them, the invisible operators who sacrifice recognition, comfort, and connection to complete missions most will never know existed. In the transport aircraft, Colonel Nire Kessler begins reviewing the preliminary briefing for her next assignment. Whatever personal feelings she might have about leaving FOB Chimera, she compartmentalizes them efficiently, focusing instead on the mission parameters, potential security vulnerabilities, and operational timelines. Recognition isn't why she serves. She serves so others can sleep peacefully, never knowing the battles fought on their behalf. As the plane banks east toward her next assignment, she allows herself one last look at the base that had been her home and prison for 3 years before turning her full attention to the mission ahead.